The rain came down in sheets that Thursday afternoon, turning the sidewalk into a river of grime and regret. And Yates Anderson knew he should have been at his second job already, not trudging through downtown with his daughter's forgotten lunch bag in his calloused hand. His shift at the warehouse started in 20 minutes, and being late meant less money in an already bone-dry bank account. But 6-year-old Emma needed to eat, and the school was only 3 blocks from the loading dock where he spent his evenings hauling boxes until his shoulders screamed. The sound cut through the rain before he saw anything, a desperate, guttural yowling that made him stop mid-stride. Yates turned toward the alley between the dry cleaner and the Italian restaurant, water streaming down his worn canvas jacket, and spotted her immediately. A woman in an expensive-looking cream coat, now soaked through and streaked with mud, was crouched on the filthy pavement, her hands hovering over an orange tabby cat that was clearly in bad shape. "Please, please, please," she was saying, her voice breaking. The cat was breathing in short, painful gasps, one of its back legs bent at an unnatural angle. "I do not know what to do." Yates should have kept walking. He really should have. But something in the woman's voice, the raw fear and helplessness, reminded him of himself 3 years ago when Emma had fallen off the playground equipment, and he had been absolutely terrified. Alone, drowning in responsibilities he had never asked for but would die to fulfill. "Madam," he called out, jogging toward her. "Madam, is that your cat?" She looked up at him, and even through the rain and her obvious distress, Yates registered that she was beautiful. Dark hair plastered to her face, green eyes wide with panic, maybe in her late 20s or early 30s. Younger than his 34 years, but not by much. "He ran out," she said quickly. "I was getting out of my car and he bolted, and then the delivery truck, it did not even stop. It just kept going and okay, it is okay," Yates said, crouching beside her. He had grown up with barn cats on his grandfather's property, had seen his share of injured animals. This cat needed a vet, and it needed one now. "Where is the nearest animal hospital?" "I do not know this area," she said, and he caught something in her accent now, faint but definitely there. "I have only been in the city for a few months. I looked on my phone, but I am shaking too much to read it properly, and he is suffering East Park animal emergency," Yates said immediately. "It is about 6 blocks from here. Can you carry him?" She looked down at her trembling hands. "I am afraid I will hurt him more." Yates pulled off his jacket without thinking, ignoring the immediate chill that seeped through his damp work shirt. "We will wrap him in this. Might help stabilize him a bit, but we need to move fast." Together, working with careful precision, they managed to slide the jacket under the cat. The animal yowled again, a sound that made Yates's chest tighten, but then it was bundled securely. Yates lifted the makeshift carrier, cradling it against his chest. "Come on," he said. "Stay close to me." They ran through the rain, the woman keeping pace beside him despite her heels, which she kicked off after the first block. Yates held the cat as steady as he could, feeling each labored breath through the fabric. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably his supervisor wondering where the hell he was, but there was no time to check it. "I am Gianna," the woman gasped out as they rounded a corner. "Gianna Harris." "Yates," he replied, dodging a puddle. "Yates Anderson. Thank you for helping." Most people would have walked away. "Most people are not as stupid as me," Yates muttered, but there was no real heat in it. The veterinary clinic appeared like a beacon, its lit windows cutting through the gray afternoon. They burst through the door, dripping and breathless, and the receptionist took one look at them before hitting an intercom button. "Emergency, exam 3 now." The next 20 minutes were a blur. A vet tech took the cat, still wrapped in Yates's jacket, and disappeared into the back. Gianna filled out paperwork with shaking hands while Yates stood there, suddenly aware that he was soaked to the bone, standing in a puddle on the clinic's tile floor, definitely late for work now, definitely about to lose hours he could not afford to lose. He should leave. He had done his good deed. Emma's lunch had been delivered, The cat was with professionals, and he needed to salvage what he could of his shift. Yates. He turned to find Gianna looking at him, her eyes red, rimmed but dry. She had composed herself, though she still looked like she had been through a war. Yeah. Will you stay, just until they tell me something? She twisted the pen in her hands. I know you must have somewhere to be, but I do not think I can stand here alone right now, and you have already been so kind. Sure, Yates heard himself say. I can stay a bit. They sat in the waiting room, him in his damp clothes, her barefoot with her ruined shoes on the floor beside her. The silence stretched between them, not quite comfortable but not hostile either. That was your work jacket, Gianna said suddenly, looking at him. I saw the company logo on the back. You were heading to work. Was being the operative word, Yates said with a tired smile. Oh God, I am so sorry. You can go, really. I should not have asked you to. I already called, Yates lied smoothly. Told them I had a family emergency. It is fine. Is it? No, he admitted. But that cat needed help, and you needed help, and some things are more important than a shift at a warehouse. Gianna studied him for a long moment. You are a good person, Yates Anderson. I am a person who is going to regret this when my bills come due, he said, but he smiled to take the edge off. Before Gianna could respond, the vet emerged, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and scrubs decorated with cartoon dogs. Miss Harris, your cat is stable. The leg is badly broken and he has some internal bruising, but I think he will pull through. We need to do surgery to set the bone, and he will need to stay here for at least a few days for observation. Gianna's entire body sagged with relief. Thank you so much. Whatever it costs, it does not matter. The vet nodded. We will get you an estimate. He is a fighter, that one. He is lucky you got him here so quickly. When the vet left, Gianna turned to Yates, and before he could process what was happening, she had thrown her arms around him in a tight hug. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. Thank you. Yates stood there, frozen for a second, then awkwardly patted her back. She smelled like rain and something expensive, floral maybe, and it had been so long since anyone had hugged him like this, with genuine gratitude and emotion, that he felt something crack in his chest. She pulled back, seeming to realize what she had done. I am sorry. I got him 3 weeks ago from a shelter, and I know that is not very long, but he has been my only company since I moved here, and I could not bear the thought of losing him. I get it, Yates said, and he did. Loneliness was something he understood intimately. Let me pay you back, Gianna said suddenly. For your time, for your jacket, for missing work, please. That is not necessary, it absolutely is. She pulled out her phone, which had somehow survived the rain in a waterproof case. I can transfer money right now, or write you a check. Or, really, it is fine, Yates said, standing up. He needed to go, needed to get out of here before she saw how much he wanted to say yes, how desperately he could use whatever amount she was offering. Pride was a stupid thing, but it was one of the few things he had left. I am just glad your cat is going to be okay. At least let me buy you a new jacket, Gianna pressed, and pay for your dry cleaning, and please. I know you are trying to be noble, but you helped a stranger in the rain and sacrificed your job, and I cannot just let you walk away with nothing. You did not ask me to sacrifice anything, Yates pointed out. I made a choice that cost you. He could not argue with that. Yates looked at her, this beautiful, clearly well-off woman who was looking at him like he had hung the moon just for helping with an injured cat, and he felt the weight of every responsibility, every bill, every sleepless night pressing down on him. Dinner, he said before he could stop himself. You want to pay me back? Buy me dinner, a burger or something. I have not eaten since breakfast and I am starving. Gianna blinked, surprised. Then a genuine smile crossed her face, the first real one he had seen from her. Dinner, she agreed, but somewhere better than burgers. You deserve better than burgers. Burgers are great, Yates protested, but he was smiling too. They left the clinic after Gianna arranged payment and left her phone number for updates. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving everything smelling clean and new. Gianna called for a car using her phone, and within minutes, a sleek black sedan pulled up. "I cannot get in that," Yates said, looking down at his soaked clothes. "I will ruin the seats." "The seats will survive," Gianna said, opening the door. "Get in." The driver, to his credit, did not even blink at Yates's appearance. They drove through the city as afternoon gave way to early evening, and Gianna directed them to a restaurant that made Yates's stomach drop when he saw it. "This place has a dress code," he said flatly. "There is no way they are letting me in looking like this." "They will," Gianna said with quiet confidence. She was right. The maitre d' took one look at Gianna and whatever unspoken signal she gave him, and they were ushered to a private table in the back, away from the other diners. Yates felt profoundly out of place among the white tablecloths and crystal glasses, but Gianna seemed completely at ease. "Order anything you want," she said, opening her menu. "Gianna, I mean it. You saved my cat's life. The least I can do is feed you properly." So Yates ordered, feeling reckless and strange, and when the food came, it was the best meal he had eaten in years. They talked as they ate, cautiously at first, then with increasing comfort. He learned that she had moved to the city from California for work, something vague in finance that she did not elaborate on. She learned that he was a single father, that Emma was his whole world, that he worked 2 jobs to make ends meet and still came up short most months. Her mother. Gianna asked gently. "Left when Emma was 2, Yates said, the old wound barely aching anymore. Said she never wanted kids, that it was a mistake, that she felt trapped. One day I came home and she was just gone, left a note and divorce papers. I am sorry." "I am not," Yates said honestly. "Emma deserves people in her life who want to be there. I would rather do it alone than have her grow up feeling like a burden." Gianna smiled at that, soft and warm. "She is lucky to have you." "I am lucky to have her," Yates corrected. They talked until the restaurant started to empty, until Yates realized with a start that it was nearly 9 o'clock and Emma would be asleep at his neighbor's place, where she stayed after school until he could pick her up. "I need to get my daughter," he said reluctantly. "Of course," Gianna said immediately. She signaled for the check, and when it came she paid without even looking at the total. "Let me drive you." "You have done enough, Yates," she said, and the way she said his name made him stop. "Let me drive you, please." So he did. He gave the driver his address, a modest apartment complex on the east side that looked even more run down next to the obvious luxury Gianna was accustomed to. If she noticed, she did not comment. "Thank you for dinner," Yates said as they pulled up. "And for the ride. And for being decent company after what I am sure was one of your worst days." "It started as my worst day," Gianna said, "but it is ending as one of my best." He looked at her, illuminated by the streetlight, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or possibility. "Can I see you again?" Gianna asked, and there was a vulnerability in the question that made his chest tight. "Not to pay you back or to say thank you, but because I would like to see you again." Yates knew he should say no. He had nothing to offer someone like her, a woman who clearly had money and culture and a world he could not begin to touch. He worked 80 hours a week, had a 6-year-old daughter who came first always, lived paycheck to paycheck when he was lucky. "Yeah," he said anyway. "I would like that too." She smiled, brilliant and genuine. "Give me your phone." He handed it over, his ancient smartphone with its cracked screen, and she programmed her number in. "Text me," she said, giving it back. "Anytime." "I will," Yates promised. He got out of the car and watched her drive away, then stood there in the cool night air, wondering what the hell had just happened, and why his heart was beating so fast. Emma was already asleep when he collected her from Mrs. Chen's apartment, curled up on the couch with her favorite stuffed rabbit. His neighbor, a grandmother in her 70s who watched Emma for a fraction of what daycare would cost, smiled at him knowingly. "Good day?" she asked. "Strange day," Yates admitted, carefully lifting Emma into his arms. "But maybe a good one." He carried his daughter home, put her to bed, and only then did he let himself think about Gianna Harris and her green eyes and the way she had looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. The next morning, after he had gotten Emma to school and was on his way to his first job at a construction site, Yates pulled out his phone and stared at Gianna's number. What did you even say to a woman like that? What did she want with someone like him? Before he could overthink it further, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Marmalade is doing well. Surgery was successful. Thank you again for yesterday, Gianna. Yates smiled despite himself. Marmalade. The cat had a name. That is great news, he typed back. Glad he pulled through. Are you free this weekend? Came the almost immediate reply. Yates looked at his schedule, the careful juggling of shifts and Emma's activities, and the handful of hours he reserved for sleep. Sunday afternoon, he wrote, but I have my daughter with me. There was a pause, longer this time, and Yates felt his stomach sink. Of course. What woman wanted to deal with someone else's kid? Perfect, Gianna's response finally came. I would love to meet her. Do you like the park? And just like that, Yates found himself grinning like an idiot on a construction site, earning curious looks from his coworkers that he steadfastly ignored. Sunday dawned bright and warm, the kind of late spring day that made the whole city feel alive. Yates dressed Emma in her favorite sundress and tried not to obsess over his own appearance. He owned exactly 2 outfits that were not work clothes or sweatpants, and he settled on jeans and a button-down shirt that was only slightly faded. Where are we going? Emma asked for the 5th time as they walked toward the park. I told you, we are meeting a friend of mine, Yates said. A girlfriend? A friend who is a girl, yes. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this. Is she pretty? What kind of question is that? Yates asked, laughing. Mrs. Chen says you work too hard and you need a pretty girl to make you smile, Emma reported matter-of-factly. Mrs. Chen needs to mind her business, Yates muttered, but he was grinning. They found Gianna waiting by the fountain in the center of the park, and Yates's breath caught for a second. She was dressed casually today, jeans and a simple blue blouse, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she somehow looked even more beautiful than she had in her expensive coat. Yates, she said warmly, then looked down at Emma with a genuine smile. And you must be Emma. Your dad told me about you. Emma, who was usually shy around strangers, studied Gianna with the intense scrutiny that only a 6-year-old could manage. You are pretty, she announced finally. Do you have a cat? Gianna laughed, delighted. I do. His name is Marmalade, and he is recovering from a broken leg. Your dad helped me save him. Dad saves people all the time, Emma said proudly. He is really strong. I can see that, Gianna said, and when her eyes met Yates's, there was warmth there that made him forget how to breathe for a second. They walked through the park together, Emma running ahead to point out ducks in the pond and interesting rocks, circling back to them every few minutes with new discoveries. Gianna asked Emma about school, about her favorite things, and listened to the answers with genuine interest that made Yates's heart do complicated things in his chest. She is wonderful, Gianna said quietly when Emma was a safe distance ahead, chasing a butterfly. She is my whole life, Yates said simply. I can tell. She is lucky to have you. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it. They sat on a bench while Emma played on the swings, and Gianna asked him about his week, about his jobs, and in return she told him more about herself. She worked in venture capital, investing in startups and new companies. She had grown up in San Francisco, went to business school, and had been incredibly successful at a very young age. How successful? Yates asked, because the question had been nagging at him. Gianna was quiet for a moment. Does it matter? Maybe, he admitted. I do not know. I just want to understand what someone like you wants with someone like me. Someone like me, Gianna repeated. What am I like, Yates? Rich, educated, out of my league. She turned to face him fully. And what are you like? Broke. Barely got through community college. Definitely out of your league. I think, Gianna said carefully, that you are kind and selfless and a wonderful father and the first person in a very long time who helped me without wanting anything in return." "I wanted dinner," Yates pointed out. "You wanted a burger and I forced you into an expensive restaurant," she countered, smiling. "Not the same thing." Emma came running back, flushed and happy. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" "Sure, baby," Yates said, pulling out his wallet and trying not to wince at the few bills inside. "My treat," Gianna said quickly, standing up. "I know a great place 2 blocks from here." They walked to the ice cream shop, Emma between them, chattering about everything and nothing. Gianna bought them all cones without even looking at the prices, and they sat outside at a small table, eating ice cream and watching the city move around them. "This is nice," Emma said suddenly. "I like her dad." "Emma," Yates said, mortified, but Gianna just laughed. "I like you too, Emma," she said seriously. "Very much." Later, after they had walked Gianna to where her car was waiting, Emma waved goodbye with the enthusiasm only a 6-year-old could muster, and Yates found himself alone with Gianna for just a moment. "Thank you for today," he said. "You did not have to do all this." "I wanted to," Gianna said. "I had a wonderful time. Emma is amazing and you are," she paused, seeming to search for words. "You are different from anyone I have ever met, Yates Anderson. Different good or different bad." "Different good," she said softly. "Definitely good." She kissed his cheek, quick and sweet, and then she was getting into her car and driving away, leaving Yates standing there with his daughter's hand in his and the imprint of her lips burning against his skin. "Are you going to marry her?" Emma asked as they walked home. "What?" "No, Emma, we just met. We are just friends." "Mrs. Chen says when you know," Emma said sagely. "Mrs. Chen says too much," Yates replied, but he was smiling. The next few weeks fell into a pattern that Yates had not expected but found himself craving. Gianna would text him in the mornings, little messages that brightened his day before it had even really begun. They would meet when they could, working around his brutal schedule, sometimes with Emma and sometimes without, when Mrs. Chen could watch her for a few hours. Gianna took them to museums and parks, insisted on paying for everything despite Yates's protests. And slowly, carefully, she became part of their lives in a way that felt natural and right. Emma adored her, and Gianna seemed to genuinely enjoy spending time with his daughter, playing games and answering endless questions with patience and humor. "I do not understand what you are getting out of this," Yates said one evening after they had put Emma to bed and were sitting on his small balcony, drinking cheap beer and watching the city lights. "What do you mean?" Gianna asked. "This, us, whatever this is." "You are spending your free time with a broke single dad and his kid. You could be doing anything, dating anyone." "Maybe I do not want to date anyone else," Gianna said quietly. Yates looked at her, really looked at her, and saw vulnerability in her eyes that matched what he was feeling. "I have money, Yates," she continued. "A lot of money. More than I know what to do with, honestly. But money does not buy what you have. It does not buy the way Emma looks at you like you are her whole world. It does not buy the kind of man who runs through the rain to help a stranger. It does not buy feeling like I matter to someone, not for what I can give them, but just for being myself." "You do matter," Yates said. "You matter a lot. To you." "Yeah," he said, his voice rough. "To me." She kissed him then, properly this time, and it was like something inside Yates that had been locked away for years finally opened up. He kissed her back, pulling her closer, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I am falling for you," Gianna whispered against his lips. "I know it is fast and probably crazy, but I am falling so hard. Me too," Yates said. "God, me too." They spent the night talking on that balcony, sharing stories and fears and hopes, and when Gianna finally left in the early hours of the morning, Yates felt like a different person. Lighter. Happier. Terrified, but in the best way possible. Things were good for a while, better than good. Yates had never been happier, splitting his time between work and Emma and Gianna, who somehow managed to fit into his chaotic life like she had always been there. She started keeping clothes at his apartment, started having her own inside jokes with Emma, started feeling like family. Then reality came crashing back in with the force of a freight train. Yates came home from his construction job one afternoon to find an eviction notice taped to his door. 30 days to vacate or pay the 3 months of back rent he owed. 3 months that he thought he had been paying, that he had scraped together and handed over to his landlord in cash like always. But apparently the landlord had been pocketing the money and not applying it to his account. He stood there, staring at the notice, feeling his carefully constructed world crumble around him. "Dad," Emma's voice came from behind him. Mrs. Chen had brought her home. "What is that?" "Nothing, baby," he said automatically, crumpling the paper and forcing a smile. "Just junk mail." But it was not nothing. It was everything. It was the fragile house of cards he had been building finally collapsing, and he had no idea how to fix it. He did not tell Gianna. How could he? She was this brilliant, successful woman who had her life together, and he was a 34-year-old man who could not even keep a roof over his daughter's head. The shame of it burned through him, and for the first time since they had started whatever this was between them, Yates started pulling away. He canceled their next date, claiming overtime at work. Then the one after that, saying Emma was sick. Gianna's texts became more frequent, more concerned, but he did not know how to explain it without revealing just how badly he had failed. Finally, she showed up at his apartment unannounced on a Saturday afternoon, and he opened the door to find her standing there, determination in her eyes. "What is going on?" she asked without preamble. "You have been avoiding me for 2 weeks, and I want to know why." "I have just been busy. Do not lie to me, Yates," she said, and there was hurt beneath the steel in her voice. "Please, if you want to end this, just tell me. Do not make up excuses." "I do not want to end this," he said immediately. "Then what?" Emma was at a birthday party. He had 2 hours before he needed to pick her up, and Yates made a decision. He stepped back and let Gianna in, then handed her the eviction notice that he had been carrying around like a weight in his pocket. She read it, her face carefully neutral, then looked up at him. "Why did not you tell me?" "Because it is humiliating," Yates said flatly. "Because I thought I had it handled and I did not. Because you are this amazing woman with her whole life together and I cannot even pay my rent. Because I did not want you to look at me like I am looking at myself right now." "And how is that?" "Like a failure," he said quietly. Gianna set the paper down and crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. "You are not a failure," she said fiercely. "You are raising a beautiful, happy, well-adjusted child on your own. You work yourself to the bone to provide for her. You stop to help strangers in the rain. You are one of the best men I have ever met, Yates Anderson, and I will not let you talk about yourself like this." "Gianna, let me help," she said. "Please, I have the money, it means nothing to me, and it would mean everything to be able to do this for you." "I cannot take your money," Yates said, even though everything in him wanted to say yes. "I cannot be that guy who what? Who lets someone who cares about him help when he needs it." She was still holding his face, her green eyes intense. "This is not about pride, Yates. This is about Emma having a home. Let me do this. Not as charity, not as some power play, but as someone who loves you helping someone she loves." The words hung in the air between them. "You love me?" Yates asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I love you," Gianna confirmed. "I am completely, terrifyingly in love with you, and I have been for weeks, and I know it is fast, but I do not care. I love you and I love Emma, and I want to help." Yates kissed her, hard and desperate, and when they broke apart, he was surprised to find tears on his cheeks. "I love you too," he said. "I love you so much, and it scares the hell out of me because I have nothing to give you. You have everything to give me," Gianna interrupted. "You have yourself and Emma and the life you have built, and that is more than enough." They worked it out together. Gianna paid the back rent, not as a loan but as a gift, and she helped him find a lawyer to deal with the landlord's illegal practices. She also, over Yates's protests, set up a trust fund for Emma's education, something that made him cry again when he realized what it meant for his daughter's future. I am not trying to buy you, she said gently as they sat on his couch, his head on her shoulder. I am just trying to help the people I love have the security they deserve. I know, Yates said. I am sorry I pulled away. I should have talked to you. You should have, Gianna agreed, but I understand why you did not. Just promise me that next time you will let me in. Let me help carry things. That is what people who love each other do. I promise, Yates said. Things shifted after that. Yates stopped seeing Gianna's wealth as something that separated them and started seeing it as just another part of who she was. She helped him find a better job, one that paid more and had reasonable hours, working maintenance for a company she had invested in. It meant he could quit the warehouse job and actually see his daughter in the evenings. Emma flourished with the new stability and with Gianna in their lives. She started calling her Aunt Gianna, though Yates could see in his daughter's eyes that she wanted something more than that. 6 months after that day in the rain, Yates and Gianna were officially together, though neither of them had made any big declarations about it. She stayed over most nights, kept more and more of her things at his apartment, and became a permanent fixture in their lives. Move in with me, Gianna said one morning over breakfast. The three of them crowded around Yates's small kitchen table. Yates nearly choked on his coffee. What? Move in with me, she repeated, looking at both him and Emma. I have this huge house that I bought when I moved here, and it has been sitting mostly empty. It has a yard for Emma, a good school district, enough space that we would not be on top of each other. Move in with me, both of you. Really? Emma squealed, bouncing in her chair. Can we, Dad? Please? Yates looked at Gianna, saw the hope and fear mingled in her eyes, and realized that this was what he wanted. Not her money or her house or any of the material things she could provide, but her. Her presence in his life, in their lives, permanent and real and solid. Yeah, he said, smiling. Yeah, we can do that. Emma cheered, and Gianna's smile was brighter than the sun. The move happened over the course of a month, Yates insisting on taking his time, making sure Emma was comfortable with all the changes. Gianna's house was beautiful, a sprawling property in a good neighborhood with a yard that Emma immediately claimed for tea parties and imaginary adventures. Yates had his own worries about living in a place he could never afford on his own, but Gianna was patient with his concerns, never making him feel like a charity case or less than. This is our home, she would say whenever he started to spiral. Yours, mine, and Emma's. Not my house that you are living in, our home. And slowly, it started to feel that way. Yates cooked dinner in the huge kitchen and helped Emma with homework at the dining room table and fell asleep next to Gianna in their bed. And it all felt right in a way nothing had felt right since, before his ex-wife left. Emma thrived in her new school, making friends and joining activities that Yates had never been able to afford before. She took ballet lessons and art classes, and Gianna never missed a recital or showing, cheering louder than anyone. You are really good at this, Yates said one evening, watching Gianna help Emma practice her positions in the living room. At what? Gianna asked, steadying Emma as she attempted a wobbly arabesque. Being a parent. Gianna looked at him, surprised. I am not her parent, you are her parent. You are more of a parent to her than her biological mother ever was, Yates said quietly, and you are really, really good at it. Something passed over Gianna's face, emotion too complex to name, and she blinked rapidly. I love her, she said simply. She makes it easy. That night, after Emma was asleep, Gianna brought up something that Yates knew had been on her mind. I want to adopt her, she said quietly. They were in bed, her head on his chest, his fingers running through her hair. If you would let me, if Emma wanted it, I want to be her mother, officially. Not to replace anyone or take anything away from you, but because she is already my daughter in every way that matters, and I want it to be legal and real. Yates was quiet for a long moment, processing. You really want that? I really want that, Gianna confirmed. I want us to be a family. A real family. We are already a real family, Yates said. I know, but I want it on paper. I want Emma to know that I am choosing her forever the same way you chose her when her mother left. I want her to have that security." "Okay," Yates said. "Okay?" "Yeah, okay, let us do it. But we should ask Emma first, make sure she wants it too." They asked her the next day, sitting her down and explaining it in terms a 6-year-old could understand. Emma listened carefully, her little face serious, and then she looked at Gianna. "Would you be my mom?" she asked. "I would love to be your mom," Gianna said, her voice thick with emotion. "And you would stay forever. You would not leave like my other mom did." Gianna knelt in front of Emma, taking her small hands. "I promise you, Emma Anderson, that I am here forever. I am not going anywhere. I love you and your dad more than anything in the world." Emma threw her arms around Gianna's neck. "Then yes, I want you to be my mom." The adoption process took several months, but when it was finalized, they had a small celebration at home, just the 3 of them. Emma kept looking at the papers, at Gianna's name next to Yates's as her legal parents, and grinning like it was Christmas morning. "We are a real family now," she announced. "We were always a real family," Yates said, but he understood what she meant. It was official now. Permanent, safe. That night, after Emma was in bed, Gianna pulled Yates out to their back porch. It was a warm summer evening, fireflies dancing in the yard, and Yates was struck by how different his life looked now compared to a year ago. "I have a question," Gianna said, and there was nervousness in her voice that made him pay attention. "What is it?" She took a breath, then pulled a small box from her pocket and got down on one knee. Yates stopped breathing. "Yates Anderson," Gianna said, looking up at him with her heart in her eyes, "you are the best man I have ever known. You are kind and strong and selfless, and you have given me a family I never knew I needed. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love someone, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you and Emma. Will you marry me?" Yates pulled her to her feet, kissing her hard, and when they broke apart they were both crying. "Yes," he said. "Yes, absolutely yes." She slipped the ring onto his finger, a simple platinum band that fit perfectly, and they stood there holding each other as the fireflies danced and the city hummed around them. They planned the wedding for the following spring, a small ceremony in their backyard with close friends and family. Emma was the flower girl, taking her duties very seriously, and she beamed the entire day. Mrs. Chen was there, crying happy tears and telling anyone who would listen that she had known from the start. Some of Yates's co-workers came, and a few of Gianna's business associates, and it was a perfect blend of their 2 worlds coming together. When Yates said his vows, looking at Gianna in her simple white dress with flowers in her hair, he thought about the rain and the injured cat, and the split-second decision to help that had changed everything. "I was drowning before I met you," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his chest. "Working myself to death, barely keeping my head above water, terrified every single day that I was failing Emma, failing myself, failing at everything. And then you came into my life, and you did not save me because I did not need saving. But you gave me a partner, someone to share the load with, someone who loved me and my daughter exactly as we were. You gave me a family and a home and a future I never thought I could have. I love you, Gianna Harris, and I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you how much." Gianna was crying openly now, and when it was her turn, she had to take a moment to compose herself. "I moved to this city alone," she said. "I had money and success, and everything I thought I was supposed to want, but I was lonely. So lonely. And then a stranger helped me in the rain, asked for nothing in return, and I fell in love so fast it terrified me. You showed me what mattered, Yates. You showed me that kindness and love and family are worth more than anything money can buy. You and Emma are my heart, my home, my everything. I promise to love you both, to support you, to build a life with you that is full of joy and laughter and all the things that make life worth living." They kissed as husband and wife, and Emma cheered loudest of all. The reception was joyful and chaotic, exactly what they had wanted. Emma danced with everyone who would let her, eating too much cake and staying up far past her bedtime. Yates danced with his wife, still marveling at the word, and felt happier than he had ever been. "Thank you," he whispered to Gianna as they swayed to a slow song. "For what? For taking a chance on me, on us?" "Thank you for letting me," she replied. Their life together settled into a comfortable rhythm over the next few years. Yates thrived in his new job, eventually being promoted to supervisor. Gianna continued her work in venture capital, though she made sure her hours allowed for family dinners and Emma's school events. Emma grew from a little girl into a bright, confident preteen, secure in the knowledge that she was loved by two parents who would move heaven and earth for her. She still remembered her biological mother occasionally, but the sting of that abandonment had faded, replaced by the solid presence of Gianna, who had been there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every triumph and disappointment. When Emma was 10, Gianna and Yates started talking about having another child. They were both in their late 30s now, but they wanted Emma to have a sibling, wanted to expand their family. "How would you feel about a brother or sister?" Yates asked Emma one evening at dinner. Emma looked up from her pasta, considering. "Would you still have time for me?" "Always," Gianna said immediately. "You are our first baby, Emma. Nothing could ever change how much we love you." "Then okay," Emma said, smiling. "I think I would like that." It took some time, but eventually Gianna got pregnant. She was sick for most of the first trimester, and Yates fussed over her relentlessly, which she tolerated with good humor. Emma was excited and nervous in equal measure, asking endless questions about babies and siblings and how their life would change. Their son was born on a cold December morning, a healthy baby boy they named Owen. Emma held him in the hospital with careful hands, looking down at his tiny face with wonder. "He is so small," she breathed. "You were this small once," Yates said, standing behind her with his hand on her shoulder. "I am going to be the best big sister ever," Emma declared, and she meant it. The first year with Owen was exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. Yates and Gianna traded off night feedings, both of them stumbling through their days in a sleep-deprived haze. Emma helped when she could, fetching diapers and singing to Owen when he cried, and the baby seemed to calm down fastest when his big sister was around. "You are a natural," Gianna told Emma one afternoon, watching her gently rock Owen to sleep. "I learned from watching you and Dad," Emma said simply, and Gianna had to leave the room to cry happy tears. As Owen grew from a baby into a toddler, their family dynamic shifted and settled. Emma was in middle school now, navigating the complex social world of teenage life with the confidence that came from having a solid foundation at home. Owen was a rambunctious 2-year-old, full of energy and mischief, keeping them all on their toes. Yates would sometimes stop and look around at his life, at the beautiful house and the wife he adored, and the 2 children who were his entire world, and feel overwhelmed with gratitude. He thought about that rainy afternoon 7 years ago, about the choice he had made to help a stranger, and how it had led to everything he had now. "What are you thinking about?" Gianna asked one evening. They were on the back porch again, their favorite spot, watching Emma push Owen on the swing set they had installed in the yard. "Just how lucky I am," Yates said honestly. "We are both lucky," Gianna corrected, lacing her fingers through his. "I was drowning before you." "I was lonely before you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their children play in the fading light. "Do you ever regret it?" Yates asked after a while. "Tying yourself to a guy like me, you could have had anyone." "I had everyone," Gianna said. "Before you, I dated men who wanted my money or my connections or the status of being with me. None of them wanted me, just what I could give them. You wanted nothing from me, Yates. You helped me in the rain and asked for a burger in return. You made me feel like a person, not a bank account." "How could I regret that?" "I wanted more than a burger," Yates said, smiling. "I wanted you, pretty much from the start." "Good," Gianna said, kissing him softly, "because you are stuck with me now." Emma came running over, Owen toddling behind her. "Dad, can we have a fire in the pit?" And make s'mores? It is a school night, Yates said. Please? Emma gave him the puppy dog eyes that still worked on him even at 13. Fine, he sighed, and Emma cheered. They built a fire together, Emma helping Owen roast marshmallows under careful supervision. Yates sat with Gianna, her head on his shoulder, and watched his family laugh and talk and simply be together. This is everything, he said quietly. This is everything, Gianna agreed. Years continued to pass, each one full of its own challenges and triumphs. Emma went to high school, then college, studying environmental science with a passion that made her parents proud. Owen grew from a toddler into a bright, curious boy who loved books and soccer in equal measure. Yates and Gianna grew older together, finding new rhythms as their children needed them less. They traveled some, took up hobbies, invested in their community. Gianna started a foundation that provided support for single parents, helping people like Yates had been, and he worked with her on it, understanding better than anyone what that help could mean. When Emma graduated college, Gianna and Yates sat in the audience, holding hands and crying proud tears. Their daughter, who had started life with a mother who abandoned her, had become a confident, compassionate young woman who was going to change the world. We did good, Yates whispered to Gianna. We did great, she corrected. Emma came to them after the ceremony, still in her cap and gown, and hugged them both tight. Thank you, she said. For everything, for being the best parents anyone could ask for. Thank you for being our daughter, Gianna said. Both times, Yates added, and Emma laughed through her tears. Owen was 12 now, on the cusp of teenagehood, and he watched his sister with pride and a bit of hero worship. Emma ruffled his hair affectionately. Your turn will come, squirt, she said. I know, Owen replied. I have pretty good role models. That night back at home, Yates and Gianna sat on their porch like they had so many times before. 20 years, Gianna said softly. 20 years since that rainy day. Best decision I ever made, Yates said. Helping you with that cat. How is Marmalade doing, by the way? Fat and happy, last I checked. Marmalade was indeed still alive, ancient now at 21, spending his days sleeping in sunny spots and being thoroughly spoiled. He had been the catalyst for everything, the reason Yates and Gianna had met, and they both had a soft spot for the old orange cat. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? Gianna asked. If you had just kept walking that day, all the time, Yates admitted. I think about how close I came to missing you, missing all of this. It terrifies me, but you did not keep walking. No, I stopped, I helped. And you changed my life. We changed each other's lives, Gianna said. That is what love does. They sat together as the stars came out, the same stars that had been there that rainy afternoon 20 years ago, constant and eternal. Inside the house, they could hear Emma and Owen laughing about something, their children's voices a symphony of joy. I love you, Yates said, the words as true now as they had been the first time he said them. I love you too, Gianna replied, kissing him softly. Forever. And there, on the porch of their home, surrounded by the life they had built together from a chance meeting in the rain, Yates and Gianna held each other close and knew that they had found something most people spent their whole lives searching for. They had found home and family and a love that would last the rest of their days. The story that had started with a struggling dad helping a woman carry her injured cat to the vet had become so much more. It was a story of two people who found each other when they needed it most, who built a family from love and commitment and unwavering faith in each other. It was a story of healing and hope and the power of choosing kindness even when it cost you something. As the years continued to unfold, as Emma started her career and Owen grew into a young man, as Yates and Gianna grew older together with gray in their hair and laugh lines around their eyes, that story remained at the center of everything. It was the foundation their entire life was built on, the reminder that one choice, one moment of compassion, could change absolutely everything. They never forgot that rainy afternoon, the scared woman and the injured cat, and the man who stopped to help. They told the story to their grandchildren when they came along years later, Emma's children who would sit wide-eyed and listen to how Grandpa Yates and Grandma Gianna met. "And then what happened?" the grandchildren would ask. "Then we fell in love," Gianna would say, looking at Yates with eyes that still held the same warmth they had 20, 30, 40 years before. "And we lived happily ever after," Yates would finish, pulling his wife close, because they did. They really, truly did. Through all the challenges and changes, the joys and sorrows that came with a life well lived, Yates and Gianna stayed together, stayed in love, stayed committed to the family they had created and the home they had built. In the end, that was what mattered most. Not the money or the success or any of the material things. Just love, pure and simple and strong enough to weather any storm. Just a family built from two broken people who found each other and chose to be whole together. Just a life, full of ordinary moments that added up to something extraordinary. And it all started with rain and a cat and a man who chose to help when he could have walked away. That choice echoed through the decades, rippling outward into a future neither of them could have imagined, creating a legacy of love that would outlast them both. That was their story. That was their happily ever after, and it was more than either of them had ever dreamed possible.